moments later.
The F111a Aardvark, a heavy frontline bomber and low-altitude interdictor. It came around because the Air Force wanted a new fighter bomber and the Navy wanted a new air superiority fighter, and DoD said, I'm paraphrasing here, 2 birds, 1 stone, you two share. Its first flight took place at the end of 1964 with mass production beginning just 3 years later. With the initial development focus being on the avionics because it had to withstand or at least resist the detonation of a mushroom cloud generator. The Vietnam War drastically changed the F111's purpose. It went from a mushroom cloud generator dropper to a low altitude hit and run pickle drop. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, essentially the F111 Aardvark went from dropping mushroom cloud generators at high altitude to hugging the fucking ground and at the speed of Mach dropping conventional bomb. Real quick guys, if you want to shout out the next video, comment the word freedom in the comments down below for a shout out the next video. The US Air Force would eventually retire the Aardvark at the end of 1996. And I believe the last country to retire the Aardvark was Australia in 2010. So I'm gonna get the negative stuff out of the way first. The biggest drawback about this plane is its sheer size. It is big, it is slow to accelerate, it's got very thirsty engines, and you can't carry bombs on the outer 4 pylons on each side if you still want to go supersonic. Now the negatives out of the way, this thing can carry more ordnance than anything else in the game short of ships. It is the only aircraft that I've found so far that could drop bombs while going over the speed of sound, which is just ridiculous. And at its battle rating, it will outrun pretty much everything. The only thing that might give it a run for its money is the F104, but if you fire a missile, it'll just automatically pop flares thanks to the automatic flare dispensers, and you can just run all the way back to base, reload, and come right back. Speaking of speed, the F111 has a top speed of 2,450 kilometers an hour or 1,500 miles an hour at altitude of 12 kilometers or 40,000 feet. That's what it says in a player card, but realistically, you won't be that high necessarily unless you want to be and just wait eons for your bombs to make contact with your target. More realistically, you'll be at the altitude of 2,500 feet or, well, around 2,500 feet or 762 meters, aka around, going at around 800 miles an hour or 1,300 kilometers an hour, dropping your bombs. Now, when it comes to its ordnance, the F111 is in a league entirely of its own. The only thing that can maybe come close is the B-29 with 40 500-pound bomb. I'll just show you in game because if I have to list everything, we're going to be sitting here for days. It is no shortage of bombs. It's really dependent on how badly you want something to not exist anymore. That's really the measurement you have to use when you're picking your loadout. One thing I will say, however, is fuel consumption is a thing. You do have the option to go 2.5 hours full tank, but that is a lot of added weight, and that will just nuke your acceleration to the point where you're going to be subsonic for most of your flight to the battlefield. But if you run a whatever bomb you want in the internal hard points closest to the plane, and then to the hard point just outside of that, put on external fuel tanks and select the fuel in the internal tanks to about 41 minutes, the bare minimum, and then have that, you should have enough fuel to hit your targets or dogfight or whatever else you want to do while at full afterburner and get back to base, provided you return to base at about 20 minutes worth of fuel. On most maps that should be fine, but depending on the map it could be a little more or a little less. Just have to pay attention to what map you get and plan accordingly. In terms of play style, how you should use the F111, it is really dependent on how brave and or stupid reckless you are. Because if you wanted to, it can dogfight, just not one-on-one. If you can be a third party in a dogfight, that is great. The 20mm on the Sting has 2,000 rounds, and that is a lot of ammo. Doesn't seem like much, but it is a lot if you control your burst. And the F111 can carry as much bombs as your heart desires. Just keep in mind, the more bombs you carry, the slower your acceleration is, and if it's on the outer 4 pylons or outer 3 pylons, it will be subsonic the entire time. Also, a quick side note, you have to put on a gun part in the internal gun part, the first one on the left. If you want to run more than that in terms of gun parts, you will be subsonic the entire time. I'm guessing it has to do with the gun part's accuracy, meaning where the sights are lined up to where it shoots, is probably what's keeping it, the wings locked, preventing you from going supersonic. If you go with an external fuel tank on the second pylon on each side or a set of bombs, you should be fine. Just don't go beyond the second pylon on each side. You can put on a sidewinder, you put on bombs, you go like full 50, 500 pound bombs, you'll be subsonic, your wings will be locked, and it'll break very easily. Like the slightest G's and the wings just break right off. The F111 is truly the king of bombers. Oh, strike aircraft, technically. And its battle rating, I haven't seen anything that can even come remotely close to carrying as many ordnance as it can. The only thing I can think of would be Phantoms, but Phantoms don't have as much fuel. They don't have as many options to choose from in terms of how much they could actually carry. It is just wow. Plus, it's got a very unique cockpit ejection, where usually it would just eject the pilot and co-pilot in separate seats. With the F111, it is very unique and it ejects the entire cockpit as a module. That's why the pilots are side by side and why it's so big. I really hope you enjoyed that video. It was a lot of fun to make. I love diving into history. If you like this type of content, just leave a like and subscribe. Subscribing and liking a video costs you absolutely nothing and it helps out the channel immensely. Thank you to my new subscribers. We're out.